G'day, legends, and welcome to the Pot Noodle by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight, as usual, are Liam and Shane. How you doing, Liam?
I'm a year older, none the wiser. Yeah, everyone, I turned 40 last week, and funny thing, I was in Tokyo with the wife for a wee birthday and anniversary celebration because we got married the day after my birthday. Smart way for her to save money on presents, but there you go. And I had my first sort of middle-age moment standing outside the museum in Tokyo, and this very, very pretty 20-something girl walks past, absolute micro mini skirt on, and my head turned. And the wife said, "Oh, you checking out a younger model?" I said, "No, I'm just thinking that poor girl must be freezing." And I genuinely, I was thinking, God, she must be cold.
I feel your pain. I had a similar thing. I don't know when it would have been last year. At one point, me and the wife were like out for a walk, and I've looked over the side of the road, and she's just like, "Oh, you having a look?" And I'm like, "Nah, I'm just looking at the dog over there. That thing's awesome. It's a big Rottweiler." But this chick on the side of the road probably looked over at me and thinking, "Oh, look at this creep pervert on me with his wife next to him." No, I was checking out your Rottweiler because it was an unbelievable animal. I want one. Anyway, how you doing, Shane?
Oh, how can I follow any of that? No, I'm good, thanks, mate. Obviously, happy birthday to you, Liam. Hopefully, you had a lovely day celebrating, buddy. No, really good. I'm going to give an early shout out actually to my lovely partner. She does a volunteer sort of first aid, or is part of a volunteer first aid organization here, and on the weekend, she got basically an award. For her sort of many years of service. And so they put on an event to, help celebrate those who'd reached a certain milestone. And it was good to be able to go and celebrate with her. But, it's a volunteer first aid organization. A lot of effort is put in and they do a wonderful job. And so early shout out to my partner. She does an awesome job, and thumbs up to you and all the others part of that organization who received awards. You all do an outstanding job.
It's a volunteer thing, Shane, so plug away. Give them a proper shout out. Well done, Bridget.
Oh, well done, Bridget. Look, it's just a St. John's ambulance, so I wasn't too sure about going into the names, but I'm sure it won't be a big deal. But yeah, shout out, Bridget. You do an awesome job, and your biggest job is you put up with me, and so I think anyone who puts up with me deserves an award. These guys deserve an award. They do it only every Monday, but she does it all the time.
Have a look at that head. Seriously, just look at him. Look at him. It's like that says it all. Like I can comment. But anyway, one other thing here though, Liam, I wanted to bring up. You're in your 40s now, and you put up a post on your Facebook page the other day, and I'm like, it's such a dad joke. I had to share it on the pod. The post was, "In honor of my birthday, the local 7-Eleven seems to have named a drink after me, and it's a bottle of the legendary Scott." I pissed myself laughing when I saw that. I thought, unbelievable. Such a Liam comment. So there you go.
Aye. And it was only worth the equivalent of about three Australian dollars a bottle, so that probably sums me up too.
Oh, brilliant. Michael Ross has outed himself here. He walked into a lamppost once because he was too busy looking at a gorgeous woman. Yeah, you get that sometimes on the tough jobs, mate. Nothing wrong with it. But anyway, we're here to talk Celtic, not about how, unless you want to put it in the comment about every time you've been a dirty perv or whatever, chuck it in the comments. We'll leave them there. But other than that, we'll get on to the Celtic talk, I suppose.
Well, it's like, I'll just throw in quickly, me and the wife like to get involved a wee bit of the old dressing up sometimes, I'll dress up and pretend to be like a handsome policeman, and she'll pretend to still find me attractive.
Oh.
Anyway, moving on.
Anyway. We're being demonetized. It's done. It's over. Podcast done. Anyway, we've lost the plot. So I'm surprised there's still 13 years hanging around on the live at the moment with that comment from Liam. Jeez. Anyway, we'll crack on. So Celtic won, Motherwell won on the weekend. Now, I'm going to have to rely on you two for the old play-by-play notes and everything because, yes, I know it's early, but I had me work Christmas party on Saturday night. So when the game was on, I was very, very drunk. I was probably about 8 hours into a bender at that point. So I was pretty, I don't know what sort of state to say. So yeah, it was a little bit off me chops, a little bit drunk, and have zero recollection of the game. Tried watching it yesterday to catch up on it and fell asleep. So yeah, I'm gonna have to rely on you guys. So I'll just go through the starting lineup. Joe Hart and goals, Ralston, Carter Vickers, Scales, and Taylor across the back line. O'Reilly, McGregor, and Home got the start in the midfield. And then it was Kyogo up front with Palmer and Yang. I think that's pretty much spot on there in terms of the lineup that we all would have guessed. The two positions were, is it going to be Forrest or Yang? And is it going to be Home or Bernardo? That's pretty much the two questions going into it. Ralston starting. Johnston only just got back from international duties, so he was always going to be doubtful to play that game. He got in like the day before the game, so yeah, I can understand why that, but it's still an all-international backline. Motherwell, on the other hand, they would have been training non-stop to just park the bus and sit deep, and they're in a 5-3-2. Yeah, great fun. So yeah, a bit of a doozy there. So I'll throw to you, Shane. Do you want to give us your rundown on the first half?
Yeah, well, I didn't actually watch it live, nor did I catch up on it the day before. I actually watched the game today. I watched the first half during my lunch break, and then I watched the second half just after I finished work. So, Jared, all I'm going to say is I watched it, and I'm glad you didn't have to. So, look, interesting first half. I thought we started okay. You're right. Motherwell was set up to defend pretty deep. They were really trying to deny us actually trying to come inboard. So they were trying to really force us out wide, keep our wingers wide. And every time Palmer and Yang got on the ball and tried to cut inside, there were really few options for them to create or link up with O'Reilly and Kyogo, who was very much isolated. But look, I thought we started okay, all things considered. We weren't great, but we were sort of asking enough questions to have a few half chances, and we're actually getting a lot of them actually defending pretty deep pretty early on. We were forcing them, to really kind of just knock the ball wide. And, at one stage we had 7 corners in about 30 minutes. It was ridiculous. What we were really lacking is that our final ball was pretty poor, but despite all the sort of wide or the play we had in the wide areas, we really struggled to actually put a really decent ball into the box. If we put a decent ball in, those who were up front or in the box weren't reading it, and vice versa. If we did have good positioning, the ball coming in was pretty poor. So, look, I thought we were okay still. I thought we were still good value to try and get that goal before half time. But we really just didn't create any clear-cut chances. The only one I can think of, or there are two actually. There was O'Reilly had a great chance where he probably should have buried it. That was good build-up play down the left, which involved Taylor and Palmer, but he hit it straight at Kelly. But really, the best chance for us in the first half came from an actual Stephen O'Donnell header, which nearly went in, and Kelly had to pull off a remarkable save. So really not an awful lot to write home about in the first half. I thought it was kind of just a bit slow, a bit lackluster, and we really struggled to create anything in those kind of, I guess, those middle channels of the final third, if you want to call it that.
What was your thoughts, Liam, off the back of that?
Yeah, pretty similar. It was a hard watch, especially when it's like, game kicking off at midnight here and I'm already knackered. Yeah, it was not fun. It really wasn't. And I think the one word I would use is slack. It was slack. It was a slack and careless display. We were too casual on the ball. We were not quick enough to get it into the front line when we had possession. We were dawdling around the midfield far too much. The lack of Rio Hatate and Daizen Maeda is very, very evident because the lack of directness in the team at the weekend was quite telling. And, Palmer has been a sensation up until now, but he looked just like a guy who just got off a flight back from Honduras, So he looked well below what he's been recently as well. Just one of those bad days at the office, but really it's more it's more concerning that it's not the first time it's happened, and I get the feeling it's not going to be the last time it happens this season.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say it, like, where you were saying it was like boring and there wasn't any cutting edge. We've seen that in 3 or 4 games already so far this year, where it's like Kyogo isn't getting the service he needs. He's making runs, the ball's not coming in. Then we get in a situation where, okay, now we've got to reverse it, recycle it, swing it from side to side. Our centre backs are making 40 passes each, easily a half in games like that. And Kyogo's touching the ball 3 times in the first half. Yeah, it's a massive change. Like, if you look at last year, the way we were playing under Ange, where we were pressing teams and we were harassing them, and we were right up on them. And then you look at this one where it's like, let's try to get it, but if it's not there, let's try to then draw them out. Teams aren't coming out of their shape. You look at that team, Kettlewell's coached them really, is a very structured coach. He was like that when he was at Ross County as well. He's got them structured. He's got them sticking to their game plan. They're sitting deep and they're keeping their shape. They're just sitting there happily just letting us pass it around the back line. But to them, that's okay, cool, they're going to do that. We'll just sit back here and rest. And our defenders won't get worn out because they don't have to go close anyone down because you're not going to score from halfway. So that's what I've seen so far from the highlights that I've watched of the game. But yeah, I don't have the ins and outs of it like you guys are saying. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I just think we're like way too. I don't know whether it's a combination of we're a bit too timid in certain situations or we're just not aggressive. And Liam, where you're saying we're missing the directness, yeah, Hatade, Maeda, but also a Barter would help that.
Yeah.
So you take those 3 out and it takes a lot of the directness out of what we're doing.
We were very pedestrian and we were recycling the ball pretty well, but again, we weren't really pushing anything, and that's a big difference to compared to last season. And I was going to come to the Hatate thing when we got to the player focus, and I still might reference it there. But yeah, I think when we were struggling to break them down, we needed a player who was going to bite off that pass or do something out of the ordinary to make something happen, and that's Rio Hatate. And then not only that, we miss his energy in midfield, so that if we do lose the ball, we've got someone there closing down and pressing to win it back high up and to get them out of position, essentially, instead of letting them reset. And yeah, he's a noticeable absentee, but as is Maeda and Abada, as you said, Jared.
I'm going to throw something weird at you, Shane, because, you've got the top with his name on it and everything. I'm thinking in a game like that, I'm kind of missing an Aaron Moy type in midfield.
It's sort of
not from the defensive side of it, but with his ability to find that little pocket for Kyogo making that run and slide that little depth touch off the outside of his boot into that pocket where Kyogo's running in the box. So he'll get it around the top of the box to the penalty where he can get his shot. We're missing that. Or that guy who's thinking 3 phases ahead. So he's positioning himself on the right to get the ball to put the crossover quickly to the other side. I think we're missing that. Instead of getting it to him and then it's getting passed to the centre backs, then to the left back, then to the winger, we're missing that player who's getting in there and just threading the needle or quickly moving the ball. I think we're missing that sort of player.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we're talking about them being, recycling the ball, and I'm saying they're a bit pedestrian and they're lacking a bit of spark. And when you sort of think, yeah, exactly. You think of Aaron Moore, you think of someone that's methodical on the ball and that is a bit slow, but he is a creative force. He can get on the ball a bit deeper and he can make something happen. His mind and read of the game is excellent. It's almost second to none. And if anyone's going to be able to pick holes in that defense, Aaron Moy can do it, and he can do it from a deeper sort of midfield position as well. And particularly when you've got the likes of O'Reilly, who's sort of at the top of that chain, but kind of not able to get the space he usually does and be creative. You need someone in more of that kind of deeper role to be able to get on the ball and make something happen. And that's where, even though Hatate and Moy are very different players, they can both do that. So yeah, I'd agree. If we have a Moy in there, we're probably unlocking that defense in the first half.
We're saying he's slow, but his fastest attribute in the game was his mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I was going to bring up a couple of comments here. So Mahesh is saying Kyogo 9 touches, 0 touches inside the box, not enough penetration into the box. There we go. That ties in what we were just saying about Moy.
Just wait till you get married, Mahesh. Sorry, I went there. Yeah. Anyway.
And then Mahesh has also gone in overly active on the right side of the box, 9 touches home, 3 touches on the left. So again, that says, I'm not saying it's home. It could just be where where the space was without having seen it. You guys will have to answer that. But Andrew Galore saying Moy was everywhere, even at walking pace.
Yeah.
So
Aaron Moy was very much the kind of a, you see players like him where, I mean, Scott Brown to a lesser extent as well. Like, even when the legs started to go, the football brain was still there, and that intelligence will get you that extra yard because you know where you should be before the ball's there. I'm not comparing them in terms of ability, but Lothar Matthäus was a great example of that. He played until into his 40s because he still had that footballing brain long after his legs had gone. And I think Celtic are missing that now. They're missing that kind of, O'Reilly has all the skill. McGregor is the steady hand and the leader. But we don't have that intelligence in the midfield at the moment.
I'm going to say it, man. I'm going to say it, and you're going to love it. Bruni was the guy, as you said, when he lost his legs started going, he still got his, could do things by sheer will of force, basically, and power, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking about missing the Moy type of player in that 8 who can get in between it, can drop deep if he needs to, and can do that. And for me, you're looking at it with the guys who are out, like Hatate being out, Holmes come in, hasn't set the heather alight. You've got Bernardo come in, same deal. I agree with Andrew here. Surely it's time for Awada with McGregor pushed up. McGregor can play that Moy role. You can have Awada come in and do the grunt work and kick the lumps out of people. And I think that would actually give us a bit more steel in the midfield and will give us that problem we were saying with the Moy type where someone can get that little bit creative, and it will allow McGregor to not have to do the same level of running that he's currently doing for other players.
Absolutely.
And come on, Liam, I thought you'd be all over that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's kind of anything I say would just be kind of reiterating the obvious because we've all been saying it for a while now. Play Awada deeper and push McGregor forward because he's a much more creative player than he gets credit for.
He plays
and
further
you
up
can
for
actually
Scotland,
you can see the frustration in his face sometimes. I saw it a couple of times at the weekend where he wants to get up into the box, but he can't because he knows he leaves the sort of holding area exposed if he does. And if Iwata would just slot it in behind him, then he could do that. And he'd be much more effective. I think that, like you say, the reason that McGregor's performances recently for Scotland have been much better than his overall performances for Celtic is because Scotland utilise him better. Going the other way, it's the same reason why Kyogo doesn't play as well for Japan as he does for Celtic, because he's not used the right way. These are players can only play the role they're given, and if we're not going to give them the right role, then you can't really fault the player for not having a good game.
Another key player like that, Liam, was Scott McDonald whenever he played for Australia. He played 20, 30 odd games, was hopeless for Australia.
Never scored an international goal for Australia.
Exactly. And yet he was one of our better players at Clubland, but just get him in the national team and he was just absolute shite. So, Shane, you were going to say something before I jumped in there?
Well, just more around the way that we play, particularly in sort of recent memory, is that, and this kind of ties into the comment about Maeda being out. If you look at the way we play, when we get width, we try and cut inside. We try to get the ball out wide and then cut inside. We try to cut into more of those inner left, inner right channels and make something happen. We're not really getting on the ball, staying wide, hitting the byline and trying to cut it back or cross it in. But when we are, and I think of Maeda doing it, he's getting it on the break. He's laying it off for Kyogo. But if they're kind of sitting deep and we're trying to cut inside all the time, that's where that really lacking creative midfield or a smart thinking midfielder is really noticeable, because they're just sitting there, and you could see countless times on the weekend, Palmer cups inside, looks to make something happen. There's nothing on. There's just a wall of Motherwell defenders there. Yang does exactly the same thing. But then, because they're defending so well, if they actually go wide and whip it into the box, they're literally trying to hit Kyogo up to win a header against 2 or 3 centre halves. It's just not going to work. So if we're going to play that way and we want to come inside to those channels, that's where we need those creative midfielders to help unlock that defense. So very noticeable, particularly on the weekends.
I'm going to take what you said, Shane, and I'm going to add 2 things to it. First one is, you're talking about that player, those creative midfielders come through. First time Rodgers was at the club, who were those midfielders coming in on those late runs at the top of the box and banging in crazy goals?
Tommy Rogic.
Armstrong, Rogic.
Yep.
Those guys probably were in the career best form from what I've ever seen them play in that team. Now, when we played the wingers last time and they were both cutting in, Paddy Roberts on the right and Scott Sinclair on the left, what did we have outside of them? We were attacking it on 2 fronts. We were inverting the wingers. They were coming in, but then we had Tierney on the overlap. We had Lustig on the overlap. Guys who could get outside, have that bit of pace to get past, beat a man, and get a cross in. So you've got the overlap guys coming in. The defense is like, oh, shit, I've got to play to the guy in front of me. Then suddenly they slip the ball out there, and now the defense has to turn around because the cross is coming in behind them if the guy goes wide. So that's like, pick your poison. We don't have those overlap guys. Greg Taylor is no Tierney in this system. Ralston is no Lustig in this system. Johnson's been in bad form all season. So if you look at it from that pure perspective, I can understand what Rodgers is trying to do. Look back to his first year, the first time he was here. He doesn't have the cattle on the park to do that. And it's weird that I'm standing up for him.
I do think, though, that towards the end of his first spell, there was an element of other teams that kind of sussed that out, though. So I hope that Rodgers isn't thinking to go in January and try and build exactly that same kind of team again, because I don't think it will work twice.
It only ever works for 2 or 3 years at every club he's been at, Liam.
Yeah.
Look what happened for him at Swansea. Look what happened for him at Liverpool. Look what happened for him with us last time. Look at Leicester. There you go. Proof's in the pudding. That's why Ange only stays at a club 2-3 years every time, because he's that demanding. He burns all his players out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just going to bring up a couple of comments before we get into the second half. But Dominic's saying, having watched most of the games, the most used phrase, too slow in moving the ball.
Yeah.
Yep. Peter Robb, how, mate? Thanks for tuning in over in Belfast. We appreciate it. Smell the glove. Had to get off another pod. Too many happy clappers over there. You're in the right spot, mate. We'll say it like it is.
Yeah.
Over here. What's the club going to do? Tell us off? They can't do anything. So we'll just say what we think. But
not invite us to those press conferences we never get invited to anyway.
Exactly. Even when they came over here, there was like, no, you don't exist. So whatever. No big deal. So yeah, we'll dive into the second half, and then we can get into our player focus and the goals and all that sort of stuff and that. So Liam, do you want to give the rundown of the second half?
Yeah, I mean, it was just, I mean, in the start off, it was just kind of more of the same. It was plodding. It was not good to watch, but you felt a goal was coming. Then there was the penalty. Then there was the penalty miss. And I'll just say, I think far too much is being made of Palmer's run up. It's completely irrelevant. If he sticks the ball in the net, it's a good penalty. If he misses it, it's not.
I'm going to say it, Liam. Everyone was blowing him over how good it was last time when he did it, scored the last one. And now they're all, absolutely blasting him this time. Come on. Get over both.
Yeah, you need to know when to blow and when to blast. That's very important. Yes. Important safety tip there, Jared. Thanks.
If only that was the podcast wasn't named. If we're just pre-recording, there we go.
Yeah. Don't blow or blast too hard, people. It's not good for you. But yeah, the goal, the penalty, Turnbull scores again, despite not particularly impressing again. And then we just go to sleep for their goal. It was, I mean, you can fault Greg Taylor for basically falling over the guy trying to block him, and then Joe Hart decides to do a starfish impression for some strange reason. But
that's what I had in my notes.
Yeah, but
Go.
in saying that, where are our two centre backs? Why is Greg Taylor probably the weeest guy in the park trying to pick up this centre forward? When where's Carter Vickers? Where's Scales? Joe Hart reacted, but reacted like a kind of like I say, like a crustacean having a panic attack. But
I thought he was being SpongeBob in goals.
I will.
Anyway, so looking at the replay, you get the reverse angle on that one, and it tells you everything you need to know. First of all, why did we concede the corner? That's the first issue that led to that. Second one is, as you said, where's Scales and Carter Vickers defending that? When you get the reverse angle, what I'm saying is Taylor should be marking the back post. That's his role. Not, trying to cuddle a big centre forward right in front of Joe Hart, or basically stepping on Joe Hart's foot to get in between the two, him and between the goalkeeper and the striker. So he's stepped into that spot. So, you're right there. Then Taylor basically is, giving a guy a cuddle and falling over. And then you've got old mate Starfish Central going on over there. Yeah, it's just an absolute cluster. Absolute cluster. But the thing that gets me is the corner comes in and the ball goes head height past two of our guys. Like, aren't you supposed to watch the ball, not be watching your man the whole time? We should have cleared it at the near post.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of issues there. Not saying I could do any better. Like, actually, I'm going to say it. If that exact moment in time when that goal was conceded, I was drunk and I probably could have cleared it. Because I would have put my head on it. It was a joke. There you go. RL77 with the win today. We missed Carl Starfish. Sorry to everyone listening on headphones for those claps in the microphone too.
Carl Starfish, he would come back. He's auditioning for that new Hollywood film, Robocod.
Oh, God, no.
Wow.
Okay, let's just...
I'm here all week.
Yep. Shane, you got anything you want to add about the goal?
No, you boys are all over it. It was just a horrible set piece, a horrible corner to concede at that point in the game as well. Just it seemed really, really lackadaisical to kind of put it behind like that, and then just a horrible set piece. We looked completely disjointed. At sixes and sevens, as they would say, it was horrible. It's easy to look at Greg Taylor and Joe Hart and say they're responsible, but that was a whole team thing right there. They just kind of got caught up in the key parts of it, I guess. But second half was pretty much Liam summed it up. I thought the change at halftime of O coming on for home and then having Kyogo play just behind him, I thought was actually a really interesting and pretty decent move. I liked it. I liked that Rodgers was trying something a little bit different instead of waiting until how things panned out. I don't think we started any differently, but I thought around the 60-minute mark, there was a little bit of a spark. That probably lasted 10 to 15 minutes. And during that time, we seemed to be getting on the front foot, moving the ball pretty well. I thought we were shifting and our movement ahead of the ball was much better than it had been for the whole match up until that point. There was a lot of space that we were creating. Unfortunately, that kind of dissipated again and we sort of fell back into where we were. So, there was one key chance, and that was the Yang header, which I thought he could have done a little bit better on. O'Reilly had one late, of course, which could have done better, but it was a little bit hard as well. But much the same in the second half as the first half.
So I'll bring up some comments just for shits and giggles. You know how it is. So Smell the Glove makes a good point here. Brennan should have game managed better and got Phillips on for the last 10. Knowing Motherwell would just unload in the 6-yard box. I can understand that. Something I want to touch on where you just said about Owen and Kyogo together, Shane. I love the big man, little man combo as your centre forwards. And Liam will like this one. My all-time favourite one of that pairing, it's either there's two of them. And I can never pick it. It's either Viduka with Kuhl for the Socceroos and with Leeds, mainly the Socceroos, or this is the one you'll like, Liam. Shevchenko and Rebrov, Dynamo Kiev
Yes.
back in the day.
Aye.
I know you're a massive fan of that manager over there, so I always love that sort of dynamic. And I think Kyogo playing just behind O could actually be a key to unlocking some of these defenses.
Well, we actually had a little window there where Kyogo was getting on the ball for the first time, and a few things happened. We had a couple of half chances. We looked a bit more threatening. O just sort of couldn't get on the end of it, really. But we looked good, and I was a little bit surprised that Kyogo was kind of brought off around the 60-minute mark. I could only assume it's in preparation for our trip away midweek, but he looked the most lively he'd been throughout the whole match up until that point. And so even though we had an upcoming midweek fixture, I was still a little bit surprised to see him taken off.
That's the role he tended to play at Vissel Kobe too, when he was playing off the back of another striker there. So that's why he just jumps in and he can play that role no problem, because that's what he was doing before he came to Celtic and was the main man up front with Ange. But I know Liam can jump on that. But the Pork Chop Express comment, why was a midget marking a guy head and shoulders above him? You mentioned head and shoulders there, and Joe Hart was in the vicinity. That says it all. That's why I had to bring that comment up, because of the old lads. Michael Ross was red card for Liam.
Oh, come on.
Smell the glove was get Liam out of that place. Yeah, so I'm waiting for my red card now with that comment about head and shoulders and stuff. But yeah, we'll get into our player focus. So we're talking about Joe Hart. It's a good segue, head and shoulders and everything. Freddie's comment, star jump from Hart was diabolical at the equaliser, the old starfish. Michael Ross says Hart's lost the plot recently. So Liam, the goalkeeper of the pod, what's your thoughts on how Hart's playing at the moment?
Well, I was just going to remark that it just reminded me of that old joke. You know, that's how they know that Marie Antoinette had dandruff, because they found her head and shoulders in the basket. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, look, goalkeeping mistake, yes, but multitude of defensive errors that led to that goalkeeping mistake. So that is where I don't really single out Joe Hart for blame, because I think if you're going to throw him under the bus and Greg Taylor, you've got to throw the entire defence under the bus, because the ball should never have reached the position where they were able to make those mistakes. It like you said, Jared, should have been cleared at the front post. We shouldn't even have conceded a corner in the first place. So, you know, if you're gonna lay it on heavy on those two, then the whole defence needs to get it, because it was a collective error. I don't like this kind of, and it's not just Celtic, it's a football fan thing in general, but this idea of like when we concede a late goal or when we lose a game, it has to be down to one or two players' mistakes. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, right? The whole team was not at it at the weekend, and that's why it was 1 each and not 4-0 to us, which it should have been. Because we just were not at it as a team. And as a team, we succeed. As a team, we fail. And I don't like this idea of let's pick out Joe Hart or let's pick out Greg Taylor. And no, I don't buy that. The team wins collectively and they draw collectively as well.
I'll jump on the back of that as well, Liam, because I agree with you. Like, it's one of those things where late in the game when they equalised, it was an absolute. There was 3 or 4 things that we've discussed: the corner, not clearing at the front post, the wrong player defending their centre forward, not having someone on the back post, and a starfish. So there's 5 things happened there that all went wrong in that situation. Every single player who did that did something wrong at the exact same time, and it was a different player in each of them. So you can't. So as you're saying, Liam, you can't just say, "Oh, it's Joe Hart." You can't just say it's Taylor. you've got to stop the cross. You've got to clear the ball. You've got to take responsibility. So, yeah, as a team, you win and lose. Now, with that as well, I'm going to expand it further. We played like absolute rubbish. For how long? How many misplaced passes? Where was the penetration? As we said, the Moy type passes that we were talking about early on. The guy threading the needle to Kyogo. If he got the ball in some of those positions early in the half, we wouldn't have even been in this situation. If we converted the penalty that we missed, we would have been further ahead. So at the end of the day, you can't just look at, yes, it's one situation, it was a shocking goal to concede. But if we did our job with the players we have and the budget we have and the talent we have in our squad, doesn't matter if we've got so many injuries, players out, people coming back from internationals, all that. We've got enough to beat Motherwell at home. And the performance, from what I've seen, there was enough there to beat them. We just didn't. So, yeah, as you said, Liam, you win as a team, you lose as a team, or draw as a team.
Yeah.
Oh, Shane, your turn.
We weren't very creative, as we've all touched on, right? But we created enough chances to win that game and to have that game sewn up before anything happened with their goal, right? And I think and I totally agree with what you guys said. We win as a team, we lose as a team. There's so many people responsible for that Motherwell equaliser, not just Hart and Taylor. Not throwing the manager directly under the bus here, but that also extends up to him as well, because one of the things that we've heard about from Brendan I should say, and we know of him, is his ability or in-game management, that ability to go, right, I know what the situation needs now. Well, we just scored. We're 1-0 up. You think we'd need to manage the game better than what we did instead of giving away a cheap corner, not heading away at the front post, having the wrong players assigned to the Motherwell attackers, right? So there's plenty of things that went wrong there, and that goes all the way up the chain as well. So again, we win as a team, we lose as a team, and that extends to beyond the 11 on the pitch.
Yep.
Smell the Gloves put a comment in saying, we haven't had a player who goes to stop a cross coming in since Neil Lennon did it. I can picture one player in the recent, last 10 years or so, who would go out there and position their body in and cop a ball getting kicked square into him. And his name was Joe Ledley. He would do that same thing that Lenny used to do. Since him, I can't really picture anyone who would consistently do that multiple times a game. So that's what we're missing.
I mean, Near Beaton tried to do it, but he wasn't on the same ability level as Ledley or Lennon, if we're being honest. No harm to the guy, did his best, but he just wasn't on the same level ability-wise.
Come on, Liam, don't mention his name on a Celtic pod. We might get all sorts of comments now.
Oh.
Oh,
dear. Aye.
Yeah, good fun. Anyway, player focus. Shane, you got anyone you want to discuss?
Yeah, Odin Tiago home. So a couple of weeks ago on the pod, I was saying that I wanted to see him start. I wanted to see him get an opportunity. He's had a couple of matches now where he started and he hasn't impressed. He hasn't matched anywhere near the level of what he's shown on those cameo appearances off the bench. And unfortunately against Motherwell, it was very much the same. And the problem was it was so noticeable because that is where we'd normally have, and we've already discussed this ad nauseum, someone like a Hatate, or even if you go back to last season, a Moy, we were really missing that. We were really missing that energy there. We've mentioned previously, I think, Jared, you termed it as a swagger. Well, it looked more nonchalant on the weekend against Motherwell. He just didn't seem to be at the races compared to the others around him. And I think if we had someone else there in his position, we might have had a different outcome first half in unlocking that defense. So it's really frustrating. It's the second time in as many starts for him that he's been hooked midway through, at halftime. And so I'm not too sure if he's the answer there anymore. He's definitely going to have to show more when he next starts to warrant keeping that position, because right now he's definitely looked like he's been off the pace, and it's been so noticeable.
As I said earlier, Shane, I've said on previous pods, I want to see home just go and do well for us. I think there's a player there, but it's I think the right move is freeing up Kelmac a bit, putting a Awada in next to him and going with that, because as we said, Kelmack in the Scottish team, he's got McTominay next to him. He doesn't have to play as a 6. And how well does he play for Scotland? That's the right role for him. So it's a Wada time, as Andrew is saying here, not Lavi Wada, his brother. It's to make it a Wada time.
Well, he plays so well for Scotland that he doesn't get subbed off early enough and ends up, busting a gut playing international matches and comes back and plays 90 for Celtic as well. So Kelmack has an engine that's unbelievable. But just getting back to home for a second, one of the things I did notice in that first half is that there were times where he kind of really struggled when Taylor inverted and sort of came into that channel and in around his space. He didn't really know which spots to seemingly pick up. But at times it looked like they were almost going to collide. And I do wonder whether it's also getting used to that a little bit. But yeah, look, I agree with you. I'm still backing him. There's definitely a player there. But on the past 2 starts I've seen, yeah, he hasn't impressed.
Any players you want to touch on, Liam?
I would just say that I thought had some nice touches when he came on, and I hope that just because it didn't necessarily work at the weekend, I hope we don't completely ditch this idea of him and Kyogo playing together. I want to see more of that. I think that's something that could develop, because as Shane said, himself played well, but he also brought Kyogo a lot more into the game as well. I think those two have got the makings of a good partnership if we can just have the courage to play 2 up front, which is not really the done thing in most football anymore, but I think we should try and make it a thing again because it's how Celtic play.
When was the last time, guys? Let's see, when we played a partnership up front. Let's see.
I'm thinking Lenny, late Lenny era, Edouard and Lee Griffiths.
Yep, there it is.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time we played a partnership up front, and they were banging in goals like no one else's business. So,
and we were struggling that season. We weren't really kicking away with it, and we weren't playing with 2 up front. And Lenny switched to that, and all of a sudden there just seemed to be a new life with the way we were playing, to the point where we did get that gap.
That was the 9-in-a-row season.
Yep.
And then we go and sign a Wada to basically be Griffiths' not a Wada, sorry, a Yeti to be Griffiths' replacement, and
we would have been better signing a Yeti. Yeah.
Straight down the toilet. There we go.
How many red cards do you want on this episode?
It's been one of those days.
He's trying to get sent off so he doesn't have to, go to Rome and play against Nazio.
Oh God! Oh no! If there's one thing I'm up for right now, it's slapping a few Nazios. I tell you that much. Anyway, enough of my political rantings. Let's move on.
Last player I wanted to ask you about, Shane Tilio. He exists. 7 minutes. Now
he does.
One of the questions I've got for you is this is what I've read on Twitter. People were like, there was this thing. Why are they putting Tilio on? He's too wee. Then after 7 or 8 minutes or whatever it was, there's a player there, blah, blah. It's the same guys. I'm just like, watch Celtic Down Under podcast. We tell you that. How did he play?
Oh, he was great. No, in all seriousness, he was fantastic. In that 7-minute cameo, he got on the ball a fair bit. He was creative. He was making things happen. He put a couple of decent balls into the box, which unfortunately just, we didn't have anyone there with the final touch to put it away, but he was fantastic. And he's you can't deny it. No, he showed everybody that there's a player there, in my opinion. Now, we're biased, right? And I'll put my hand up. I'm absolutely biased, right? Yeah. We know there's a quality player there. We've seen him develop in front of our eyes, and we know what he can bring. But those who saw him in that 7-minute cameo, I think would have seen, there's something there that we can work with. We can use his creativity, cutting in from the right, cutting in on that left foot. He was great. He was picking up really good positions. He really involved himself. And you're coming into the time, you're making your debut. Motherwell have just equalised. You've got a crowd that's a little bit on edge. They're probably not in that kind of jovial mood where you really want to make your debut and kind of get into the swing of things. He didn't shy away. He got on the ball. He was looking to get into space. He was looking to make things happen. He wanted to be that guy that saw us get that 2-1 win. He didn't shy away. And that's not easy for people to do on their debut, let alone at any time, right? To come up and step up and say, I want to be involved and make this happen. He did that. I'm really looking forward to him getting more opportunities, and I think Brendan would have seen enough in that cameo to give him more time on the pitch in the next couple of weeks.
So what you're saying, Shane's gonna happen is after the next window, we're gonna have Tilio on the right inverting coming in, and on the left we're gonna have Jota coming in on the right foot, and then we're gonna get some fullbacks that can overlap, and we're just gonna absolutely just like destroy everyone. And it's like, getting the Infinity Rings or whatever it is in Marvel thing. We're just gonna go full Thanos mode on the Scottish League. Is that what you're saying, Shane?
Yep, this is Brendan Rodgers' 16-17 season all over again. We were talking about, having the overlapping fullbacks before and Paddy Roberts and Scotty Sinclair cutting inside. Well, this is that new version. We're going to have O'Reilly and Hatate hitting the top of the box, ready to smash it in if it breaks free. Like, we're ready for an awesome second half of the season. Don't quote me on it.
And Liam's sitting there just shaking his head.
No, I'm just thinking about the Marvel Comics reference. I think that we learned yesterday that Barry Robson is the SPFL version of Thanos. He didn't just make half the universe disappear. He made all the Huns disappear from Twitter last night.
Oh, I love him. I love Barry Robson. What do you think? Barry Robson's CSC Red Cup tonight just for that reason. Cheers, Barry.
Yep.
The only thing I will say on the Tilio front, just to wrap it up, I hope he gets more opportunities soon, because there is the potential he could be away for the Asian Cup. It's good that he's got his opportunity now, but I was hoping he'd get his opportunity early to stake his claim. But he's been away for the under-23s team, so I don't know what's on the horizon for him. Graham Arnold, the manager of Australia, does seem to like him and want to pick him when he's been out on the pitch. I agree, boo. But he's someone who seems to be in his plans going forward, so he could very well go away for the Asian Cup if he does play well for Celtic. So kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. But he'll definitely get some more opportunities over the next few weeks at league level. I can see him starting a game very soon.
Smell the gloves saying, give Tilio at least 45 minutes to St. Johnson then. They have a big pitch. Get it done. Andrew Galore, not a chance Tilio gets picked.
I would respectfully disagree, Andrew. I reckon if he can get some regular minutes for Celtic in the next couple of weeks, I think he's very much a chance to get picked for that squad.
I don't.
Let's face it, if he comes on and scores the winner against Nazio tomorrow night, he's a shoe-in.
Well, that's never going to happen because he's not in the squad.
He won't be doing that, unfortunately.
No. I was just
the next in our run sheet talking about the wingers, because
as soon as I said that, I was like, no, wait a minute. That doesn't.
Now,
sorry.
The reason I disagree with you on that, Shane, is like him getting called up for the Asian Cup. Is the only reason he was on the World Cup squad is because Martin Boyle was out hurt. So it was a late call up for him. Boyle was back and firing at Hibs. So I can't see Tilio getting in ahead of him. All the other guys who have been playing well for Australia will keep their spots. So I look at it and go, the Asian Cup is actually good timing for Tilio, because if Maeda's away, Yang's away, and all these other guys, if Kyogo gets a call up, who knows? Liam has his doubts on that as well. But if all these guys are getting called up, then there's the chance for Tilio to really just knuckle down a spot and stake his claim for the rest of the season. So I actually reckon it'll work better for us if he doesn't make the Asian Cup squad and he's up here in Glasgow and he's just dominating and doing what he's doing. And then, we're off to the races. That's how I see it. I don't think you'll make that Asian Cup thing. I reckon it's too far down the list for me.
I agree with it. Would work so much better for us wholeheartedly, but I still think he's a chance, provided he gets regular minutes. I can see him getting picked. I can see Graham including him.
Graham Arnold's a twat, so wouldn't surprise me if he did it anyway. There, he's a twat.
It's going to come down to two things. Tilio needs to get a run in the team, and I think realistically the Socceroos need a couple of injuries to necessitate Tilio being brought into the squad.
He wouldn't be first team for Socceroos. Like Jared's
No.
right. Boyle and Goodwin are on fire. They're our starting winger pair. But I'm trying to think of who we can bring off the bench off the top of my head, and I'm having a bit of a blank. And that's where I think Tilio might get
He's
picked.
already ahead of him. Rustic's ahead of him. And there's a couple others I'm trying to remember as well. There's a guy over in Belgium, and yeah. Anyway,
we'll see. I'm going to have this head's already pretty big, right? But if he gets picked for the Asian Cup squad, it may be ginormous on the pod that follows that announcement. Just forewarning.
Shane will be sitting here with the head wobble the whole pod.
Exactly. Just I'll have to have like something to hold it up because it'll just be too big.
Get your inflatable kangaroo out, Shane.
Please tell me that's not a euphemism.
You've got to look at the screen to find out, Liam.
Oh dear.
Yeah. All right. So what I wanted to touch on when we're saying about the wingers before as well. So realistically, we're pretty. What was the quote from Brendan in the past about Shred? I have 100 wingers or whatever it is. Got plenty of wingers, and everyone was saying the same. And then with all the guys that are currently out, Barrel's pretty dry, and for over in Lazio. So yeah, I was going to talk on that quickly. Is that do you think we're going to go with? I think the only options we've really got are is Palmer suspended.
Yep. So Palmer and Maeda are both out.
Yep. So they're gone. They're out. So and Maeda's injured as well. So the only options we've got are Mikey Johnson and James Forrest.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the question that I'm alluding to here is, are we going to go with that? Or do you see us changing our shape and playing the partnership of the two up front we were talking about early, with Kyogo behind him, and then just sitting a little bit deeper? What do you think, Liam?
I'm honestly not sure. But I as I said, I would rather go with O and Kyogo if it was the direct option. I mean, in effect, the Lazio game kind of becomes a free hit. So why don't we try it? Just see what happens. We're expected to get gubbed anyway, so why not just go down fighting? Yeah, I just say give it a shot, see what happens.
Go down swinging. So Andrew Galore is saying play two up front, 3-5-2. I wouldn't be against that, and it might actually work against them too. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Shane, your thoughts?
No, I agree. This is the chance to do something different, to try something a little bit different, and to give the opposition something different to our usual approach to think about. I like the way O and Kyogo looked for that small window on the weekend. As Liam said, like there's still an opportunity technically there, but it really is a free hit. Why not see how it goes? Why not actually put this to test in a really big atmosphere type game, see how it actually works, and then what you can actually do at local domestic level as well, and what you need to work on or tweak. I think there's a good opportunity to do that. That said, I don't think it will happen. I think Rodgers will stick with his usual system, which will see Mikey on the left and Jamesy on the right. And quick shout out to Mikey. I thought when he came on against Motherwell, he actually looked pretty decent and was trying to make things happen. And when he got on the ball, he did look pretty threatening and put a couple of decent balls into the box. But no, I pretty much agree with you guys. I think this is the perfect opportunity to go with something like a 3-5-2 and play O and Kyogo up front.
So we've got Andrew saying Awada and McGregor, O'Reilly and Taylor, with O'Reilly and Taylor and Ralston wide. I think Johnson would probably play as that right wing back.
Yeah.
And Taylor would play as your left wing back. More than Ralston in that sort of role. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, yeah, he's got Scales, Phillips, CCV as his back three. So what I want to do then is we'll go through our starting lineups then. So Shane, say what formation you're going with and who'll be starting.
I wish I'd thought this far ahead.
Let's go one better then. You said, well, if he goes his normal formation, so the 4-3-3, who will start? You go with that one.
Okay. So if I'm going on Brendan's normal formation, so it would be Taylor, Scales, CCV, Johnston. In midfield, we'd have McGregor. I reckon Bernardo comes back in, and then O'Reilly. And up top, you've got Mikey Johnson on the left, Kyogo leading the line, and then Jamesy on the right.
And Liam, if we're going to go with 3-5-2, you go the starting lineup on there. Predict that.
All right. So Johnson and Taylor as the two attacking fullbacks, as we've already said. The defensive trio, yeah, I pretty much agree. Phillips, Carter Vickers, and Scales. Midfield picks itself. It's Bernardo for me ahead of home based on current form. O'Reilly and McGregor. And then up front, we go with Kyogo and O. And I think this is where Alistair Johnson could really, step out of his shell and really do something this season. This could be a good platform for him if we play that formation, because I think it would more suit his style of play. He is at his best when he's getting up and supporting the attack. And I think that really we need to play a formation that maximizes that.
I think the other thing too about playing the 3-5-2 and having Taylor as an attacking fullback or a wingback, if you want to call him that, and having the three central defenders behind him takes away a problem that has come up ad nauseum on not just our podcast, but our other Celtic Down Under podcast, which is when we actually play good teams and they ping the ball out to our left-hand side and they basically look to target Taylor. Well, in this case here, you're going to have the three central defenders behind him. You're not going to have the two centre halves and one being continually dragged out of position necessarily. So I think playing with a 3-5-2 gives Taylor a little bit less pressure and having to be kind of always caught out a little bit, and allows him a bit extra cover and kind of takes away a vulnerability that we have there. So another reason that we should probably look at doing it.
Yeah.
So for me, if we're going to go with the hang on a second, Martin in the comments here. Wow, that's a left field shot thinger. Turnbull needs to play best goal threat we have, and this is the thing that caught my eye. Drop Kyogo and get Turnbull playing off the striker. He's in the form player on goals. Now that's a weird shout. You know what? If that happened and he comes in and scores a winner, it'd be like the old, you'll just see big balls on campus, a guy walking in with like doing the big, Vince McMahon wrestling walk down to the ring for everyone who's seen the GIF, where he's just walking and he's like, arms going, or the old Conor McGregor sort of walk for the people who say it as well. I'll be like big man on campus thing. So that's
for those who don't watch wrestling, imagine if RoboCop shat himself. That's kind of the walk that we're talking about.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway,
so I was looking at going for the back three, trying to go serious again. I was gonna say, okay, let's chuck. I wasn't sure if it was in the actual squad, so I've just been checking that up while you guys have been talking, and I was going to say I'd be having Scales, Carter Vickers, and Naroski, but Naroski's not in the squad. I'm looking through that now. Phillips is in because that and Lagerbelk is in, so I'm like, I'd go with Phillips there then. But yeah, if Naroski was in the squad, I'd be having him in, but he's clearly not. So there goes that idea. But yeah, it'll be here we go. Sarah's position at Nazio under pressure. Yep, go for it.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
I see where Martin's coming from a little bit. I can kind of understand. I wouldn't do that personally. I don't think that works. And I think that changes the dynamic of our team a little bit too much. But I can kind of see where he's going. When Turnbull's been given opportunity, and Liam touched on this before, he doesn't necessarily impress, but he manages to do enough to find a goal. And he's one of the rare players who's actually going to take a ping from outside the box. We tend to struggle at times with players who get into a good position a couple of yards outside the box, but are looking to make something happen. At least when Turnbull gets on the ball, I know he's going to probably have a ping. And you need to put the keeper, particularly at domestic level, definitely under more pressure than we do sometimes. So I could definitely kind of see where that's coming from. Me personally, I wouldn't do it. I think we lose too much up front if we don't have Kyogo there, or at least Kyogo in our starting 11 playing a role. But yeah, it's definitely, I can see the thinking and logic behind it.
Martin's saying here, How many goals has Kyogo got this year? You take the piss, but the numbers don't lie. Yeah, understand that Turnbull is our leading goal scorer. Okay, so I get you. I'm not taking the piss out of what you're saying. I was just shocked to see that comment pop up. Like, what? Never would have thought that. That's why I brought it up more than anything. Like, the way I look at it is we can say our opinion. You can say your opinion. As Shane said, he wouldn't drop Kyogo for him. Neither would I in this game. But there's certain games where I do it. For me, I'm looking at it going, I think Turnbull would be great for us to come on. Say if we need a situational sub, someone who can come on, strike a free kick, put a good corner in, or if one of our midfielders pick up an injury or something like that, he'd be the perfect guy to come in, and I wouldn't have any questions. But the problem I see with Turnbull is I just think he's a little too slow when him and O'Reilly are playing together. The pace in the midfield is too slow. That's what my issue with him is. And it's not Turnbull, it's those two together are just too slow together. So it's not the Kyogo or Turnbull for me, it's O'Reilly or Turnbull for me.
Yeah, I mean, I get Martin's point, but what I would say is you don't drop a striker for a midfielder. That would unbalance, in my opinion, it would unbalance the team a bit too much. And also, yeah, Turnbull has scored more goals, but how many of those goals have been when he's come on as a sub? I think you'll find the majority of them have been substitute appearances. So that plays into Jared's point. Turnbull is most effective as an impact sub. So if we want to get the most effective contribution out of him, prior form suggests start him on the bench and bring him on in the second half.
Yep. All right. So where will the game be won, boys? Shane, what are you thinking?
Well, it all kind of depends on the lineup we go with, but if we go with the 3-5-2, I'm going to say, like I did a few weeks ago, I'd say up front. I think that creative output of Owen Kyogo is going to be crucial to see if we can get anything from it if we play the two up front. So up front, our final third, and how the midfield links up with that, but mainly up front.
Liam, what's your thoughts?
No, I agree. They're going to score, so we need to score more. It's all about the attackers and the midfielders supporting them. The defense will do what they have to do, but we're going to concede. We are going to concede, so we need to score more than they do.
My thoughts here is if it's a low scoring game, they're the favourites. They did it to us last time where it was we almost got the point, and then they get that last minute winner. And when you look through all their last 10 games or something like that, anytime there's been multiple 3 goals or more scored recently, they've lost. Like you have a look, Milan beat them 2-0 in the start of October. They beat us 2-1. Then it was a 3-2 Lazio at Atalanta. That's the only one that's different to what I'm saying. Then it's 2-0 Lazio against Sassuolo, 3-1 against Feyenoord, 1-0 against Fiorentina, 1-0 Bologna beat them, 1-0 they beat Feyenoord, 0-0 against Roma, and then yesterday they lost to Salernitana 2-1. So if it's a close game, it suits them. If we can get a couple of early goals, all bets are off. So that's the way I look at it. It's going to be, can we take our chances? Because that's been our problem the whole Champions League. So if we can get out there and actually convert, if we get a chance, put it in the back of the net and get a couple of early goals and make it high scoring, I think that suits us more than them.
Yep, absolutely.
For historical context, Liam, I think you might like this one. I've gone to head-to-head, us versus Lazio. So the bookies are saying that we're going to get pumped, right? And they've gone with and on here, this is the lineup that they've picked for us in this game, okay? The average age of the Celtic squad playing the 4-3-3 formation is 26.6 years. There's 29.4. And this is the lineup they picked. Hart and goals, Taylor, Scales, Carter, Vickers, Johnson, O'Reilly, McGregor, Turnbull, Mikey Johnson, Yang, and Kyogo. Now, Yang's injured, isn't he?
No.
Didn't he get injured on the weekend?
Oh, maybe.
I thought he went off with a hamstring or something.
He went off for Tilio from memory, but I didn't
Yeah.
know if he came off because he's just exhausted or whether he's injured. I'll take that on notice.
Yeah, because if he's fit, then yeah, that makes sense. Play him instead of Jamesy or Mikey. But yeah, that's pretty much the lineup you picked there, Shane.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I can find anything on his injuries.
Oh, here we go. Here's the out list. So Maeda suspended, Abada, Rio Hatati out injured, Lewis Palmer suspended. Funniest one on their missing players list for us on this website, James McCarthy out.
just out for lunch. It's not an injury. He's just out.
Yeah. So all time against them, it's the one I was looking for. Where is it? I had it on the screen before. It's a 50-50. There you go. It is dead straight down the guts. So I'm not too scared going there. It'll be interesting, but we'll see how it goes. So score prediction, Shane.
I agree with your high scoring hypothesis, and I'm going to be ultra positive. I'm going to say we jag 3 points here, and it's going to be a 3-2 win.
Liam?
I was going to say 3-2, but yeah, you know what? I'll say 4-3 then. We'll win 4-3.
Cool. I was going to just for a laugh go 6-1 because we all love that, don't we? But yeah, no, I'm thinking 3-1s, 3-1s on the cards, and just for you, Martin, Davey Turnbull with the winner. There you go. Now, before we finish the pod, I've got a couple of things we're going to talk about. CelticDownUnder.com, the website. Get on there. Join the mailing list. We've got all our YouTube videos, a link to that. It's linked to it. Podcasts on there. All the social medias on there. You can support the Celtic Down Under podcast by buying a T-shirt like the one Shane's wearing on the pod. And there's hoodies on there as well if you want to, treat yourself. But the last thing I wanted to discuss before we finish off the pod and go to our final thoughts is we've been talking on this pod about, I can picture a 10-0, a 10-goal game coming. Well, how's 13-0 sound for the women's team overnight against Aberdeen? Well done to Fran Alonso and the girls. Well done. I just wanted to bring that up on the pod. That's not the one I want. I still want the blokes to score 10, but, got to give credit where it's due. So we'll start to wrap up the pod. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it. Hit the like button. Helps us with the YouTube algorithm. Share it around in your Facebook groups, whatever. Like the podcast, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell on YouTube, and yeah, we'll be back with our live pod at the Thursday sesh, discussing the game against Nazio and previewing the ones on the weekend. Final thoughts, Shane.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on, and a few weeks ago, I just want to give a shout out to Martin, who I think it may be the same Martin in the comments today. A few weeks ago, Martin reached out and sort of sent a message about the podcast and how much he enjoys it. And, I won't go into the full details of the message, Martin, but we really all appreciated it. In all honesty, it's messages like yours that make what we do really worthwhile. It was really, really heartfelt, and we genuinely loved it. So I know you've been through the wars, mate. So I just thought I'd give you a shout out and say thanks so much for tuning in. We really appreciate your support, and really appreciate your message. So all the best, mate, for what the future holds.
My final thought is I think Todd Cantwell needs to go join the English diving team for the next Olympics because he's an absolute disgrace. And Liam, your final thoughts?
Well, there are about 3 things that are certain in life: deaths, taxes, and penalties to Sevco.
There we go. So we'll talk to you later on. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.